Welcome on stage Sandeep Ganediwalla, who's the managing partner for RedSeer Consulting, who's going to talk about the next wave of tech information that's going to work alongside in the industry. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Sandeep Ganediwalla. Thank you.
Hello everyone. So we have all heard that tech is changing, retail is changing. We have heard consumers are changing. Sorry, how do I change the slide? Just a sec. Yeah. So we've all heard that retail is evolving, consumers are changing. It's not a good time. The economic climate is not that good right now. What we wanted to do was we wanted to see what's next for the retail industry. How is it that what is it that retailers can do in the new environment? So we have released a report, which is Retail Technology, the Next Frontier. In this, we talk about three main topics. The first one we talk about is what is the long-term consumer spending? How is the long-term consumer spending expected to evolve in this region? The second thing that we talk about is what is the consumer consumer behavior changing? How is it evolving? And third is what are the innovations that we see in the market that will change retailers? A brief introduction about me. My name is Sandeep. I'm the managing partner of RedSeer Consulting. We are one of the largest homegrown consulting firms. We have just completed 10 years very recently. Our main differentiation is we are a data-backed consulting firm, so everything that we do is backed by a lot of data, and which is what I hope you will see in this presentation also. We are 170 people, half of them are consultants and half of them are researchers. We are very proud that we powered the largest deal on omni-channel, which was Walmart buying Flipkart. So all the SEC documents that were filed used our data for the deal. With that, let me just take you to the first thing. So first, we wanted to talk about how different is, we talk Middle East as if it is a single region. But if you look at Middle East and if you break it down, it is very different. GCC is very, very oil dependent, while rest of the geographies are not. If you look at the average spend, very, very different between GCC and the rest. One of the things that binds is Arab language. That's one thing that binds the region. So a cookie cutter approach to solutioning will not work here. You will have to look at different regions within Middle East and come up with sub-cluster level strategies. Now, I know this slide looks slightly busy. What we were trying to do here is look at as countries become more and more wealthier, how is the consumer spending changes? The first stage, which is nascent stage, during nascent stage, consumer spending is driven completely, GDP is completely driven by consumer spending. There are no large companies that are driving GDP. So you see a lot of North Africa region falls under that bucket. As large companies come in, consumer spending as a percentage keeps going down. Then you enter the emerging stage, which is where most of the GCC countries are right now, where consumer spending as a percent starts stabilizing. What is interesting is as countries from emerging move to developed, consumer spending as a percentage starts going up. And what is encouraging for the region, especially GCC, is currently most of the countries are in emerging, and as they become wealthier, they will start seeing an increase in consumer spending as a percentage of GDP. So even though in the short term, we see challenges, long-term outlook, if wealth increases, we expect the consumer spending to go up. The question then comes, will this actually happen? Will the GDP per capita of these countries increase? We believe the indications are that it will. If you look at the strong tailwinds that each of the economies is facing, there are significant opportunities to increase. For example, if you look at UAE, Khalifa Fund and Shuruk, we had the Shuruk speaker yesterday talking about SMEs. They are supporting SMEs, they are supporting innovation. The mega projects that all these countries have come up with, a total investment that they are talking about is 700 billion. That is larger than the GDP of Sweden, that is larger than the GDP of Switzerland. It is that big. Although this is committed, even if some of it doesn't go through, but even if half of it goes through, there will be significant impacts on the wealth creation. The next thing is consumer behavior. So we saw a lot of speakers talking about online, offline. If you ask customers how important is omni-channel behavior to them, 70% of the consumers in UAE said that omni-channel behavior is extremely important. It was even higher at 80% for Saudi Arabia. Egypt was lower at 15%. They don't see omni-channel that well. They're slightly behind the curve right now. But on average, it was 55%. And what was interesting on the other side, verticals, it was vertical agnostic. Be it electronics, be it home, be it fashion, everywhere omni-channel was pretty important. So we believe that omni-channel is what will drive retail. It is no longer about online or offline. In the previous panel, you heard people talking about HEMA. Alibaba's HEMA has completely changed how omni-channel works. They've made the whole concept ground up to have omni-channel experience. So we mapped the whole value chain and identified what are the customer pain points and the retailer pain points and what are the innovations. I'll not walk you through each one of them, but the reports are available complimentary here. Please feel free to grab a copy. What I want to talk about is four topics in this. The first one is warehouse aggregation. So warehouse is one of a big pain points for flexibility for any retailer. The capital expenditure is very high in warehousing. The flexibility it provides for scaling is very low if you have your own warehouse. And a lot of time you don't use your own capacity. There are already a lot of models that are getting disrupted. I'm sure you must have used Careem or Uber at some stage. You must have used Oyo or Airbnb or booked your flights using one of the aggregators. So a lot of industries have already been disrupted. We see that warehouse aggregation is one of the things that will be, this region will see. We've already seen instances of it. If you look at Flex, this is one of the largest warehouse aggregators in US. The first one started way back in 2013, already raised $50 million, and now operating at scale. We have seen similar occurrences in India also where people have warehouse aggregators. So this is one thing that we believe this region will slowly and steadily start seeing. The second thing that we see is demand forecasting. Now I know you would say that demand forecasting is something that everyone does. It is the heart of retail. That's the first thing that you would do. But if you look at the amount of inventory loss that retailers face because of inventory is 1.5 trillion. Worldwide, $1.5 trillion of loss because of inventory. While on the other hand, if you talk to retailers, one of the big reasons why customers don't go online is because they don't find products. So on one hand, you have an inventory issue. On the other hand, customers are saying they don't have products available. Now, with the new advances, the industry is able to capture a lot of data. There are multiple data sources now that exist to capture data. And capturing data is not enough. Our processing capability has increased significantly. And we believe that this is the new stage of demand forecasting, where personally I've tested a few products when I was doing vendor due diligences, where more than 30 sources were used for forecasting demand. So I do believe that this is one of the things that retailers will see more and more. We are still at the start of the journey on this, but it will increase significantly. Now, this is my favorite topic, hyper-personalization. Today, if you go in a store, it is a very, very cookie-cutter experience that you will have in a store. Everyone will see the same products. Everything will be very homogeneous. While if you do the same thing online, it is a very different experience. Way back in the late 90s, when Jeff Bezos started his company, he said that today there are 6 million customers. I want 6 million shop fronts. So he wanted to have each customer to have a personalized experience of his store. And that single initiative contributes 30% to the revenues of Amazon today. All the product recommendations that you see today contribute 30% to Amazon's revenue. We see that online personalization will slowly move to omni-channel personalization. So now with all the beacon technology that we have, the different sources that we can track data, retailers will be able to personalize much more on the offline and online together. So we'll see that omni-channel experience. So yeah, just some things on the beacons. The last one is on crowdsource logistics. So again, you will see a theme. Data is one theme that we believe, and second theme is shared economy. So on the last mile, which 50% of the logistics costs are last mile, crowdsource delivery is one of the things that has picked up, where you don't have to have your own last mile. It can be with anyone else, any other provider. What is interesting in this one, if you remember the previous panelist, he was saying that home delivery did not exist 5 years ago when he came in. Now it has changed. The customer wants the products now, and now it's no longer about now, it's about hours or minutes. Food delivery platforms are already doing delivery in 30 minutes. Now they are seeing if they can reduce the cost to 15 minutes, reduces time to 15 minutes. So I think this is one thing that we'll see more and more. Already Kareem, Fetcher, there are a lot of players who are doing the C2C part of delivery and the B2C part of delivery. What I'm interested to talk about, which is fairly unique and new, is the micro delivery model, where if you think why convenience stores in Saudi, in India, in emerging markets have been so successful is because of the relationship that they have with customers. This relationship is what online retailers and organized retailers are finding it very difficult to break. So a micro delivery model is one thing that's trying to break that. The concept is you divide your region into 1 to 2 kilometers of manageable areas, and then within that, you have 1 or 2 people who are already existing in that. It could be a laundryman, it could be a carpenter, person who is already based in that location. And then he's already busy only for 6 to 8 hours. The remaining time is free. He forms the relationships with the customers, and then you can push delivery through it. So this is one model that we see, maybe not in UAE, but other parts of GCC and Middle East, fairly interesting. Now, how do retailers play in this space? Obviously, a lot of retailers have the vendor partnerships. You've seen a lot of vendors doing phenomenal jobs. So that's the easiest thing to do. Identify what your need is, go to the vendor and form the relationship. The next one is strategic relationships, where you form relationships with companies which are slightly early in the game and help them develop the products. The next one is, again, what a lot of retailers here do, is identify companies where you make equity investments in them. The last one, which is slightly more involved, is creating your own venture studio and driving your own ideas. This requires a lot more effort and a lot more investments also. But the impact is you decide what portion of the value chain you want to innovate on. So we believe that the region will again see a lot of venture studios coming in here. We already see that instance in developed markets. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about here. Thanks a lot for being a great audience.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. Great chat there. Thank you for... He tried to be as quick as he could. We actually threatened him with no lunch if he didn't finish in 10 minutes. So he did very well. Thank you, Sandeep. I'm only joking.